The QIDI Q2 is a tool that I'm using and going to be using for quite some time, and since it's coming out, I want to do an overview for you. And just to set expectations, this isn't a scientific video like My Tech Fun, and it's not like a rankings video and a detailed comparisons of specs like Aurora Tech. Those are two amazing channels that do awesome 3D printer reviews. What I'm trying to offer you right here is an authentic use case for a working professional that is making parts on 3D printers like this. And to wrap the intro up, when I add a 3D printer to my stable, I have to give one away, and I like to do that for a school or a charity. So if you can help me with that, send me an email, because one's got to go because one came in. Okay, so why even look at the Q2 to begin with? I've owned at least a dozen printers over the last 5 years, and most of them never made it into a video. Why? Well, they either worked fine but didn't matter for my workflow, or they weren't worth your time. Bambu already had me covered. They were reliable, high quality, have a great community, awesome software. I mean, the app works, for crying out loud. And after the HD2 update, the machines got even better and more professional. On the low end of Core XY desk printers, there's the Centauri Carbon, which is an absolutely insane killer deal, and I've been recommending it like crazy. It's dirt cheap, and while it came packaged like a sack of potatoes, it also came working, but it doesn't print like a sack of potatoes. It has excellent quality, and I've been making all of my carbon fiber prints on it, and it's great. Now, it's not as good as the X1C, not crisp, as sharp, and supports tons of different filaments, but it does its job. That's the thing. It has its place. So why do I need to add the Q2? Well, I actually was trying to get out of it when they sent me an email, but when they sent me the specs, I changed my mind because it does something that I desperately want. Give me a bigger print area, but not too big. It still fits neatly in the same spot as any one of these other smaller Core XY printers. But also, it's supposed to solve a major problem I have, and that is their AMS, which is called the QIDI Box, and it supports engineering filaments. That means I can actually load carbon fiber nylon into it, TPU, glow-in-the-dark filament, stuff that usually snaps and gets stuck and you have to take apart the Bambu's AMS, or grinds away the plastic gears, because accordingly to the spec sheet, the QIDI's is like hardened steel or something like that. But also, the QIDI Box can heat while printing. That's huge, because usually what I have to do is get an external heater, and I have so many of these now, and they're all terrible. You guys know that. And then I have to heat my carbon fiber nylon while I'm printing with the Centauri Carbon, and even that doesn't do a very good job. So it's very, very convenient to have multiple filaments in the same AMS, and that's why I said yes. I'm not paid for this review, and I'm not paid if you buy this with an affiliate link or anything like that. I don't make a dime from selling you a 3D printer. I sell computer cases, so your trust is important to me. I'm just here to make content for people that love to make small form factor computers at home with 3D printers and lasers and their hands and stuff. Moving into the unboxing, so Bambu's printers are packaged extraordinarily well, too well in my opinion. They take forever to set up because you're wrestling with tape and screws and zip ties. I mean, they're gonna get there in one piece, except mine didn't. My P1S didn't come in one piece, and I had to fix it, so that was kind of a bummer. So Bambu's not perfect. And on the other end of the spectrum, my Elegoo Centauri Carbon, like I said, it came like in a sack, and it worked perfectly fine out the box, and there was no setup involved because it was just all ready to go. But I wouldn't really count on that strategy long term, Elegoo. Now, the Q2, it was somewhere in between. It was well packed, it was easy to set up. This screen walks you through everything. I mean, all the printers do that, but I would give it good points. Good points, nice and easy to set up. Now, one thing I will point out is that they'll probably end up fitting the AMS inside of the printer like Bambu does, because it's going to save on shipping, and that's important, don't get me wrong. But I really like the fact that mine came boxed separately. That was very convenient. I much prefer that. I'd rather pay an extra 20 bucks for that, for sure. 25 bucks. This is an auction now. Now, when we're talking about things, let's talk about the screen. The screen is much better than the Elegoo's, but the Elegoo is like they're paying you to take the printer off their hands, so that makes sense. It's not as good as the X1C, not as sharp, not as bright, but it's really good. So it has a really good screen, I would say, but it does something better than Bambu does. It has a USB-A slot in a very convenient location, so you don't have to run around with a little micro SD card, which you're gonna lose like within 5 minutes. So good on you. Q2. And by no means is that the only quality of life features. There are so many. A sliding glass top that vents heat, side windows for easy monitoring, a spool holder with a nice little gimbal for your filament tube, versatile, clever mounting options everywhere, bright LEDs, simpler build plate stops that work way better than Bambu's Fiddleium implementation. I always have to reach back there when I load my build plate in the Bambu because those curved edges, I can't ever be sure that the back corner is flush. So I like the Q2 and the Centauri Carbons method with just right angles. Man, they ain't broke. Don't fix them. The glass door is very nice on the Q2, I will say. Very premium feeling. Actually, it's better than the Bambus and has better hinges. I think that also might help them get the US Met certification. It's the only printer in its class, OSHA recognized labs for safety. And well, despite being bigger than the competition, it's impressively lightweight and easy to move, which is important because I moved it all over the place to print things with and capture footage, and my back hurts now, but not as much as it would have been if it was that Centauri Carbon with that machined aluminum base or cast aluminum base. We need to take a little bit of time and focus on something boring, and that's noise. I have a home office. My family lives with me, which it'd be weird if they didn't. So noise matters from these machines, and they're always running constantly in that back room. The Q2, you listen for yourself. Okay, so here is a noise normalized video sample of my other printers running, so listen to that. You can make your own judgment call, but I'm not going to let you do that for the QIDI Box. That thing is obnoxious. Now, I'm not really harping on it too badly because it's not like it's always changing filaments, but just it's pretty clunky. And while we're talking about clunky, let's talk about build quality. The QIDI Q2 is a handsome looking printer from a design standpoint. I have to say, I really do like the angular design and the silver finish. Looks really nice, especially with these glass windows. But I will say, once you get close, you can tell that it's just doesn't have the same fit and finish as the Bambu. Even the P1S, which is mostly all plastic as far as its coverings, the plastic just looks a lot nicer. My major concern was the QIDI Box, which does look very cheap in comparison. And this is a complicated device, so hopefully cheap doesn't mean fragile or unreliable. And I'm happy to report that after 100 hours of printing, those proved not to be true. I didn't have any hardware issues whatsoever, and the design of the box is different than Bambu's. So Bambu has the switcher inside of the box, I believe. Like, has 4 tubes that come from your filament rolls, and it has to go down to 1. That's on the outside of the QIDI Box. Like, there's 4 tubes that go directly into the hub, and I think that's actually going to work out in its favor, but we're going to have some time to find out. However, usability, frustrating. Swapping spools took too much force, actually enough to snap the filament if you did it manually. Of course, you're not supposed to do it manually. There's a safer remove function that ejects it. But if you ain't quick, that spool's going to unravel like a spring, making it a mini game like Expedition 33's parry system. start is really slow on this machine. Getting to a print is really slow on this machine, and it's mostly because of the box. And the software needs some work. For example, the printer let me choose support filament, but the slicer wouldn't let me select it when synced. If the slicer and printer don't agree on the filament type, you ain't printing. To be fair, the Bambu enforces the same rule, but Bambu's database actually works. With the Q2, I hit 5 or 6 these little bugs. None of them were fatal, but enough to remind me how much I love printing on Bambu. We're skipping the benchies, we're skipping the calibration cubes, we're skipping all the torture tests that are out there, standardized. They all have their place, but I have my own torture test, and this is a real world review, and that is the NFC 3D LP. This is a brand new ITX case that I designed that's kind of replacing the 4TF, kind of sort of, but it supports ITX motherboards, flex power supplies, decent sized cooler, and LP GPUs. It's designed to be easy to print, to be easy to build in, to just be an enjoyable kit process for you. And you're gonna be able to print your very, very own, but that's gonna come in the next video I'm gonna be making. But suffice to say, I made so many of these across all my printers. They're constantly printing out different ones and different colors and all that, so I know exactly how it's gonna print and where else it's not gonna print. It's a great benchmark for the Q2. And we're starting with the hardest part, which is the front bezel, and we're gonna do it out of the hardest filament I've ever had to print with, and that's silk PLA. This part is a torture test. It has exposed floors and ceilings, delicate breakaway supports, bridging, and above all else, it requires cosmetic perfection. The Q2, not perfection. It had poor layer adhesion and visible Z-banding. But to be fair, it wasn't a fair test because usually I print with a 0.6 nozzle and I print on material I have fully tuned. So I ordered some bigger nozzles, 0.6 and 0.8. Only to find out the Q2 doesn't actually support either yet. You can install them, you can select them in the slicer, but when you print, it errors out. QIDI support says that support is coming, but I can't review is coming, so this is going in the review. Now switching to standard PLA, and my socks were blown off. The results were absolutely excellent. I would say flawless because there is no flaw. It printed absolutely crisp, smooth, it was reliable, and I mean, to be fair, silk is brutal, and I guess the Q2 just isn't ready for it. But with normal PLA, man, perfect results. Okay, so next I tested their AMS box again with multi-material. PETG support worked fine once I tricked the slicer, and parts came out super clean. Now for something harder, I went for a 4-color logo to match this radical 90s color scheme for the 3D LP. I hit go and oh my gosh, another bug, box temp set. Restarted, nothing. Config tweaks, nothing. Firmware update, nope. Finally, I hit record to film for QIDI support, and of course it magically started working. Coincidence? Or do I have a magic camera? When it did randomly decide it was going to go, again, the results blew my socks off. They're incredible. I would not have believed this is a 3D printed part, but here it is. It's awesome. I mean, radical. A multicolor bed logo is one of the best tests I think you can do on a 3D printer, but it doesn't cover everything. The real test is going to be abrasives. I loaded my favorite glass fiber and went for a 24-hour test print of the 3D LP outer shell. And like clockwork, more software hiccups. The box won't heat unless every slot is a high temp filament. Whew, this is a bummer. I want to use the MS to load different material classes at once. Now I have to dedicate the machine to engineering types or to prototyping types, but not both, unless I lie to it. So I did that. When it ran, it was flawless. I kept checking back with just my jaw on the floor. Wow. This is a perfect part. It printed perfect, no issues whatsoever, and it's so good that I absolutely could take money for this. I could sell this, so who wants to be the first customer? Man, it's good. Okay, reliability. Dude, I need hundreds of hours and months of operation to know if it's going to be rock solid like the Bambu is. But at the other hand, Bambu doesn't even support doing this, so the Q2 kind of wins by default. All right, I have a couple more technical notes I want to bang through really quickly. First is the time lapse. It works fine. Nothing stand out except the LED is nice and bright on the Q2, so you can see what you're doing a little bit better than some of the cheaper printers I've used. Next is the print monitoring. I never had a failure, so I never really got to test the print monitoring out. It's supposed to have AI detection for like spaghetti failures, but again, can't test it because I had no problems. Next is the app. Okay, I gotta be super bored with how extraordinarily well everything is working before I'm gonna download an app for a piece of hardware like this. No, thank you. You can look at someone else's review. Technical details of the motion system and the frame and all that kind of stuff. I like to geek out about that kind of thing when I have the time. I don't have the time. It printed fine, and that's pretty much all I care about. Efficiency, how much power does this thing use while printing? That is actually very important to me, and it takes about 500 watts for the first 5 minutes while it warms up. After it's heated up, it's very efficient. So it's running the heater box to heat the nylon and keep it dry. It's running the nozzle pretty hot to print nylon, and it's running the heated bed and the heated chamber to print nylon. So that's the hottest scenario that I have. Print speed and standardized benchmarks. I didn't really do anything massively major. I did print a Benchy on it against my other printers. There's not really a significant difference between this, the Elegoo Centauri Carbon, and the X1C and the P1S. Some print a little bit faster, but I think that's their 60-minute Benchy has like the overclock, the overdrive mode on. They're all very similar to me, so go watch another reviewer if you want to find out more standardized speed tests and that kind of thing. Finally, network and security. I'm just as interested in hearing what the pros have to say as you are. I'm not a professional in this regard, and I'm not going to give you any information regarding it. I'm going to be watching some reviews myself. Networking and security, I'm just as interested in hearing what the pros have to say as you are. I'm not a pro, so I'm not going to go over that area. So I'm going to go watch some reviews. And finally, I want you to hear this. Can you hear this? It has a high-pitched, annoying whine. Sounds like a refrigerator that's doing its cooling cycle, and it's always on after you finish a print. The Elegoo Centauri Carbon did that too for the first several months that I owned it, and then they patched it in a firmware update. I really want QIDI to fix this because it's super obnoxious. Bambu has been completely silent since I've owned it. After you finish a print, it cools down and then it's quiet. Please, QIDI, make this quiet after it finishes a print too. I don't know what's running, but turn it off. All right, for my verdict, here is where I landed. The Q2 yields great parts. It has great features and greatly obnoxious quirks. It's much better now with all the updates, but I'll need months more experience to build trust with it. The X1C just works, and the P1S for that matter. It works with every filament that Bambu sells. The Q2 needs to earn that trust with me. Its quirks cost me time, and I sincerely hope that QIDI will maintain the software and material library the way Bambu does, because the specs are great, and I know that it can produce parts that are just as good. It just needs to be just as easy. So here's another scenario. If I was starting from scratch, what printers would I buy? Well, it would definitely be an X1C for sure, not a P1S. I think the X1C is worth the extra coin. I'm not going to go into that right now. But then I do think that I would get 2 Q2s, and that is why I'm making this video. If I wouldn't buy it for myself, if I wouldn't think about buying another one for myself, well, then it wouldn't be worth my time to make it or your time to watch it. But yeah, those are the 3 printers I would buy for my desktop machines. Still looking into getting a professional big giant printer though. But that's me. What's best for you? Who are you? Are you professional doing prototypes like I am and selling different parts and pieces to your clients? Are you a hobbyist that wanted to get into the hobby of 3D printing? Or are you a hobbyist that wants to use 3D printing to accelerate your hobby? Let me know so I can kind of cater these better to you. And if you have any questions regarding these areas, ask them in the comments. I'm going to give you my very best perspective that I can. And while I'm asking questions, how'd I do bridging the gap between the super scientific review of like my tech fun and the nice broken down, clear, concise specs lists and tiers of Aurora Tech? Did I kind of hit that middle ground for you? Where did I fail in this review? Let me know because I want to do another one sometime and I want to do a better job. Thank you to Helen from QIDI for hooking me up with this printer and getting me going, and from Carl for answering all of my many many annoying questions. Thank you for being patient with me, man, and helping me troubleshoot this. And I will see you guys very soon when we talk about the 3D LP in a dedicated video, what it's about, what kind of builds you can do, and how you're going to print it yourself. And yes, don't worry, S5M content is coming. I'm actually waiting on a 5090 Founders Edition so I can do a full build and talk to you about it and finally tell you the cooler height specs and let you listen to it. All right, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Peace.